We're Hank and Jan Federal, and we're both native Charlotteans, or one of the few that are native Charlotteans, as we have found out. We've just enjoyed living in Charlotte our whole life.
Well, I think my husband, Hank, found out about Darin and MetroGreenscape on the internet, of course. And he was very impressed with what Darin's background was and his talents, and we were just in need of some major help in our horrible yard. We had a really bad water problem, and we just needed a lot of work and a lot of help, and we really didn't know quite how to start. Mm-hmm. And Darin made all that easy with so many ideas, and he was willing to work with us, and he was open to any suggestions that we had, and we couldn't have been happier with the results.
Mm-hmm. The house was an older house in a great neighborhood, but over the years, the water from the neighborhood found our backyard, and basically washed out our backyard, dropped it several feet, and every time it rained, the squirrels would be surfing down our backyard. So we had tried another firm, and that I had run across, and they did a very poor job of what we needed, and then disappeared. So then I found out about Darin by my wife said the international internet research, and Darin came out, and so that was great. The owner came out, he looked at it, he realized that it was a bigger issue than what we probably had thought it was, and came up with a plan that fit our lifestyle, which was important, and yet solved the water problem, to the point that our neighbors on both sides hooked into what we were doing to allow their water problem to be solved too. In our backyard, he built a beautiful retaining wall, a gorgeous retaining wall that was flat off the driveway, and then you'd walk down the steps to a beautiful patio, brick patio pavers, that was gorgeous, and we put a fire pit in there so you could sit outside, and he put in a wonderful creek bed, I guess you'd call it, a rock creek bed, very, very pretty. It was actually Y-shaped because the water was coming from two different areas. And so when it rained, everything stayed in place. It was beautiful. You could see the water running over the rocks, and it just solved our water problem. We also changed our driveway, made it bigger, put in channels that allowed the water to run off through these channels into a French drain that solved that part of the water problem. So there were just a lot of things going on, and he really solved them all. Plus, it became for our friends and neighbors something that they'd come by and look at, because everybody thought this was the backyard, that this is the way they should look, because it was just so pretty. I was happy because the water was being solved. Jan was happy because
it looked good.
It looked nice. And he saved our tree. We had a huge tree that literally was the entire width of our house over a deck. So it kept all the shade. So we were able to keep all that and incorporate that into the design of the backyard. So we were extremely happy. It was just beautiful.
We also used their services after the yard, taking care of our yard, every week. And they put the sprinkler system in, and they would come and do whatever needed depending on the season. And so we were pleased that we continued to have that quality service. We have just moved into a new home and that we built, which is scary. And the backyard, the whole yard needs a lot of help. And so we have asked Darin to come and specifically work on our backyard. We want it to look as interesting as our previous yard looked. We want to have him put in a patio and an area where we can have picnics. And we have a lot of problems back there that we know that he can handle, making it nice for us.
specifically any kind of new lot doesn't have much character to it. And so, especially the backyard, we like outdoor living. So we've talked to Darin about stage one is putting in trees and framing the backyard with bushes, so there's some privacy without having a fence. The second part then will be creating the patio space with a fire pit and a grill so that we can live outdoors. In the summer, Charlotte's such a great place during the spring and summer to sit outside. You bring your neighbors in, and we think it'll just be really nice. But we first need to frame it and be able to work with that space. So Darin is now designing that for us, and we will make decisions on how to stage that to make that happen. But that'll just make this house even nicer and prettier. The front yard is really small. It'll be grass. We're not too worried about that. But the backyard will be something that we really want to be a showcase, just like it was in our other house.
Darin is just so easy to work with and open to our ideas. And quite frankly, I was not quite sure what I wanted to do in the backyard or what we could do. And he just had a multitude of ideas and is willing to work with us depending on prices, and we just look to him for his direction, and I know it's going to be wonderful.
I think that when we look back through all the years, and it's been more than 10, it may be closer to 15 years that we've worked with MetroGreenscape and with Darin and his team, is that we know when push comes to shove, we get his group of people involved, we're going to have our problem solved. And it's going to be solved in a manner that's going to work. The worst thing for anybody is to have a firm come in, fix a problem, but not really fix it. And several years down the road, you're in the same problem.
And we had that problem at our previous house.
Right. But with Darin, you get a fix, a long-term fix, and the follow-up to make sure it keeps working. And I believe, and I did this in my professional life and business, is that you do the job right, you make sure your customer is totally satisfied, whatever that may be, and Darin is like that too. He wants it done right. You get a hold of him and the managers on his team, you express what you need. They're going to keep coming back until they get it done the way you want it done. And that's always important to me. For me, it's just the quality of the work, the guarantee. It's the personal guarantee. It's not a contractual guarantee. It's a guarantee because the people have pride in what they do, and they want you to be happy. Yeah, I'm not going to say MetroGreenscape is the least expensive. They're not. But it's like anything else in life, you get what you pay for. And I would want to have something done right and be able to call somebody back to make sure it's right, because life is always those you kind of curveballs. So if I have a neighbor that's asking, and is it worth it? The answer to us, and it was in our last house, was yeah.
Definitely.
It was. There was no question. There was never a second thought about what was done and what we paid for.